The Galactic Council had existed for 12,000 years. In that time, 347 species had joined its ranks. They had mapped billions of stars. They had conquered disease, hunger, and war among themselves. They believed they understood the universe and everything in it. They were wrong. Admiral Vex Nar stood on the command bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion. The ship was massive. It stretched 5 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull gleamed with energy shields that could stop any weapon known to the galaxy. Behind it floated 200 warships of the Vexari Empire, each one a monument to their military power. Vexanar looked at the blue planet growing larger in the view screen. Earth, the humans called it. Such a small world. Such a primitive species. He had read the reports from the scout ships. The humans had only discovered faster than light travel 50 years ago. They had no energy weapons, no plasma cannons, no particle beams. Their ships were ugly things of metal and chemical fuel. Admiral, his second-in-command said, "We are entering weapons range." Vexnar made a sound of amusement. His gray skin crinkled around his 4 eyes. Weapons range, as if these creatures could threaten us. Their planet produces no energy signatures of military value. They are farmers with rockets. He turned to face his officers. The Vexari were tall beings, thin and elegant. Their culture valued conquest above all else. For 3,000 years, they had expanded their empire by taking what they wanted. The Galactic Council had tried to stop them many times but failed. The Vexari were too strong, too numerous, and too willing to fight. "Send the message," Vexnar commanded. "Tell them their world now belongs to the Vexari Empire. They will surrender all resources and submit to our rule. Any resistance will be met with complete destruction." The communications officer obeyed. The message went out on all frequencies. It was translated into every human language. Billions of people on Earth heard the demand. They saw the fleet in their telescopes. They understood what was happening. In a bunker deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Sarah Chen watched the alien transmission end. She was 62 years old. Her hair was gray, her face lined with age and worry. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment. Everyone had called her paranoid. They had laughed at her theories about hostile aliens. They had questioned why she kept asking for more funding for the Orbital Defense Initiative. No one was laughing now. "General," a young officer said, "the President is on the line." Sarah picked up the phone. "Yes, sir." "General Chen." The President's voice was calm but tight with fear. "I assume you've seen the transmission." "I have, sir. Can we fight them?" "Tell me the truth." Sarah looked at the screens around her. They showed the alien fleet. 200 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. Energy readings off the charts. Shield technology that seemed impossible. According to every military analyst, Earth had no chance. The aliens could glass the entire planet from orbit without breaking a sweat. But Sarah knew something the analysts did not. "Sir," she said, "do you remember Project Thor?" There was a pause. "I thought that was cancelled years ago." "It was never cancelled, sir. I kept it running with black budget funds. We have 12 orbital platforms armed and ready. Each one carries a Mark 7 railgun." "Railguns?" "General, with all respect, how can projectile weapons stop ships like that?" "Their shields? Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, sir. Plasma, lasers, particle beams. That's what every species in the galaxy uses. But our railguns fire solid tungsten rods at 0.25 the speed of light, 75,000 kilometers per second. The kinetic energy alone." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Sir, I don't think they've ever seen anything like what we're about to show them." The President was silent for a long moment. "You're certain this will work?" "No, sir, I'm not certain of anything. But I am certain that surrendering to these creatures means the end of humanity as we know it. I would rather fight and die than see our people become slaves." Another pause. Then, "Do it. God help us all, do it." Sarah hung up the phone. She looked at her team. These were the best soldiers and scientists humanity had produced. They had worked in secret for decades, building weapons that the rest of the world thought were fantasy. Now their moment had come. "Activate all Thor platforms," she ordered. "Target the largest ship in the enemy fleet. Fire on my command. Far above Earth, hidden among the thousands of satellites orbiting the planet." 12 platforms came to life. They were simple things compared to the alien ships. just metal frames holding massive electromagnetic rails. Between those rails sat projectiles of solid tungsten, each one 3 meters long and weighing 2,000 kilograms. The platforms turned silently in space, their targeting computers locked onto the Eternal Dominion. Across 12 different points in orbit, capacitors charged with enough electricity to power a city. Admiral Vexnar was growing impatient. The humans had not responded to his demand. His sensors showed no movement from their primitive fleet. A few dozen ships were gathering near the planet, but they were laughable. Metal tubes with chemical rockets. They carried no weapons that could possibly harm his vessels. "They do not answer," his communications officer said. "Perhaps they are too afraid to speak, or too stupid," Vexnar replied. "Very well. If they will not surrender, we will make an example of them. Target their largest city. Prepare to..." "Admiral," his tactical officer suddenly shouted. "Energy spike detected. Multiple sources in orbit around the planet." Vexnar frowned. "What kind of energy?" "Unknown signature. Electromagnetic in nature. Nothing like..." The officer stopped. His eyes went wide. "Admiral, something is coming toward us. Very fast. I cannot track it properly. The speed is..." The officer never finished his sentence. From 12 different directions, 12 tungsten rods struck the Eternal Dominion. They hit at 75,000 kilometers per second. They passed through the energy shields as if they did not exist. Shields were designed to absorb and dissipate energy, not stop solid matter moving at a fraction of light speed. The first rod punched through the forward hull. It created a hole 10 meters wide. The kinetic energy converted to heat so intense that the metal around the impact point vaporized instantly. The rod continued through the ship, destroying everything in its path. Crew members, equipment, walls, all were reduced to plasma in microseconds. The second rod hit the engine section. It struck the main reactor. The explosion that followed was visible from Earth's surface, a new star blooming in the night sky. The third rod hit the weapons array. The fourth hit the bridge. Admiral Vexnar had just enough time to feel confusion before he ceased to exist. The fifth, sixth, seventh rods continued the destruction. By the time all 12 had passed through, the Eternal Dominion was nothing but expanding debris and cooling gas. The flagship of the Vexari invasion fleet, the most powerful warship in their empire, had been destroyed in less than 1 second. Silence fell over the Vexari fleet. No one spoke. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. Their shields had failed. Their armor had failed. 5 kilometers of warship had been reduced to nothing by weapons they could not even see properly. Captain Tirvix commanded the second largest ship in the fleet. He was now the ranking officer. He stared at the debris field that had been the Eternal Dominion. His minds could not process what he was seeing. What happened?" he managed to say. "Unknown weapons, sir," his tactical officer replied. His voice was shaking. "Projectile-based. Solid matter accelerated to extreme velocity. Our shields cannot stop them. They are not designed to stop physical objects at such speeds. How is that possible? No species uses projectile weapons. They are primitive, inefficient. We abandoned them 10,000 years ago. The humans did not abandon them, sir. They perfected them." Tirvix made his decision quickly. "All ships, retreat. Jump to hyperspace immediately." But the Thor platforms were already charging for another volley. As the Vexari ships began to turn, more tungsten rods screamed across the void. 3 more ships exploded. Then 5 more. The Vexari fleet broke formation. Every captain desperate to escape. Only 67 ships managed to jump to hyperspace. The rest were destroyed or disabled. In the span of 10 minutes, humanity had annihilated the largest invasion fleet the Vexari had ever assembled. On Earth, people emerged from their homes. They looked up at the sky. They could see the explosions, bright points of light fading to darkness. They did not understand what had happened. All they knew was that the alien ships were gone. They were still alive. In her bunker, General Chen allowed herself to sit down. Her hands were trembling. She had just started an interstellar war. She had just killed thousands of alien beings. She had just changed the course of human history. "Get me the president," she said quietly, "and start preparing. This isn't over. It's just beginning." She was right. 300 light-years away, on the Vexari homeworld, the survivors of the fleet were transmitting their reports. The High Command listened in disbelief. Their greatest admiral was dead. Their greatest ship was destroyed. A primitive species with projectile weapons had humiliated the mighty Vexari Empire. The Emperor himself demanded to see the recordings. He watched the Eternal Dominion die again and again. He watched his ships explode like insects under a flame, and he felt something he had never felt before in his long life. Fear. Seal these recordings, he commanded. No one is to know what happened here, but it was too late. The Vexari fleet had transmitted on open channels in their panic. Other species had intercepted the communications. Within hours, the recordings spread across the galaxy. Every world, every station, every ship received the footage. They watched a primitive species destroy an invasion fleet in minutes. They learned a new word, railgun, and for the first time in 12,000 years, the galaxy felt afraid of something other than the Vexari. On the Galactic Council homeworld of Nexus Prime, the representatives of 300 species gathered in emergency session. The chamber was enormous, a sphere of gleaming metal and energy fields. Each species had their own platform, floating in precisely arranged positions. The eldest, a being of pure energy who had guided the council for millennia, called for order. But there was no order to be found. Every representative was talking at once. Arguments and accusations flew in 100 languages. They used primitive weapons, mass drivers. We banned such things ages ago. Banned. There was never any law. We simply stopped using them because energy weapons were more elegant. The Vexari were fools to attack without proper intelligence. The Vexari were the greatest military power in the galaxy. If these humans can destroy them so easily, we must make contact immediately. We must bring them into the council. Are you insane? They just killed 100,000 Vexari. They are dangerous monsters. The Vexari attacked them first. They were defending themselves. It does not matter who started it. What matters is that they have weapons we cannot stop. The eldest raised a tendril of light, and slowly, reluctantly, the chamber fell silent. Representatives, the eldest said. Its voice echoed through the minds of every being present. We have watched the recordings. We have analyzed the data. There is no mistake. The humans have developed kinetic weapons of terrible power, weapons that our shields cannot stop, weapons that render our entire military doctrine obsolete. A ripple of fear passed through the chamber. What do we do? Asked the representative of the Kelani, a peaceful species of traitors. Do we hide? Do we prepare for war? What if the humans decide to expand like the Vexari did? Then nothing in the galaxy will be able to stop them. The eldest replied simply. Those words hung in the air. 300 species, thousands of years of civilization, countless worlds and trillions of lives, all of it suddenly felt fragile, vulnerable, mortal. The Vexari representative stood on his platform. His name was Ambassador Dravok, and his 4 eyes burned with hatred. The council must act, he shouted. These humans have committed an act of war against the Vexari Empire. They have murdered our people, our admiral. We demand justice. Justice? The representative of the Menthari, an insectoid species, clicked with derision. You invaded their world. You threatened to destroy their cities. They defended themselves. It does not matter. They have proven themselves to be savages, killers. If we do not destroy them now, while we still can, they will destroy us all. And how do you propose we destroy them, Ambassador? The eldest asked. Your mighty fleet could not do it. What makes you think a larger fleet would succeed? Their weapons passed through our shields as if they were not there. Dravok had no answer. None of them did. On the other side of the galaxy, in a dark region of space known as the Void, other beings watched the recordings with very different eyes. The Kron Dominion had always existed on the edges of galactic civilization. They were predators, conquerors, beings who believed that strength was the only true virtue. Their supreme lord, a massive creature of scales and claws, watched the human weapons tear through the Vexari fleet. Unlike the Council, unlike the Vexari, the Supreme Lord did not feel fear. He felt opportunity. These humans, he rumbled, they are alone. New to the stars. They have powerful weapons, but they know nothing of galactic politics, nothing of the games we play. His advisors waited in silence. The Vexari are weakened. The Council is afraid. And these humans sit on their little world, not knowing what forces they have set in motion. The Supreme Lord showed his teeth in what passed for a smile among his kind. Contact our agents in the Council, tell them to push for a diplomatic mission to Earth, and tell them to make sure the Kron are included. What is your plan, Supreme Lord? These humans have shown us a weapon that can change everything. We will take that weapon for ourselves. By treaty if possible. By force if necessary. And then, he spread his clawed hands wide. Then we will finish what the Vexari could not. We will conquer the galaxy. But far away, on a small blue planet, General Sarah Chen was already thinking about the same thing. She had won a battle, but she knew the war was just beginning, and somewhere in the depths of space, ships were already heading toward Earth. Ships carrying diplomats, ships carrying spies, ships carrying soldiers, ships that would learn, one way or another, that humanity was not as alone or as helpless as they appeared. The galaxy would never be the same. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Earth. That was what the human news media called it. The name spread across the planet, and then beyond, carried by radio waves that moved at the speed of light in all directions. 3 weeks, and the galaxy was still in chaos. On the trade world of Calyx Station, a massive structure floating between 3 stars, the marketplace that normally buzzed with activity was nearly empty. Merchants from 100 species huddled in groups, speaking in low voices. Everyone had the same question on their minds. Have you seen the new recordings? A Kalani trader, his blue skin pale with worry, showed his datapad to a group of fellow merchants. On the screen, human ships patrolled the space around Earth. They were ugly things by galactic standards. No elegant curves, no flowing energy patterns, just blocks of metal covered with guns. Look at them, the Kalani whispered. They have already built more. 3 weeks and they have doubled their fleet. A Drathii, a being that resembled a walking tree, leaned closer to look. How is this possible? Ship construction takes years, decades, not for humans. Their ships do not use energy systems, no plasma cores, no quantum reactors. They use simple fusion engines, and those. He paused, unable to say the word. Railguns, another merchant finished. Kinetic accelerators. Metal rods thrown at the speed of light. A fraction of light speed, the Kalani corrected. But yes, their entire military philosophy is different from ours. While we spend years building elegant ships with perfect shields, they build simple boxes filled with weapons that ignore shields completely. The Drathii's leaves rustled with unease. I have studied the recordings. Their projectiles move so fast that our sensors barely detect them. By the time you see one coming, you are already dead. Across the station, similar conversations were happening. Fear spread like a disease. For thousands of years, the species of the galaxy had believed in certain truths. Energy weapons were superior to kinetic weapons. Shields were the ultimate defense. The Vexari were the greatest military power. The Galactic Council kept the peace. Now, all of those truths had been shattered. A species that most had never heard of had changed everything in a matter of minutes. On Nexus Prime, the Council was in emergency session for the 15th day in a row. The eldest floated at the center of the chamber, struggling to maintain order. The debates had become increasingly hostile. We must ban kinetic weapons, the Vexari ambassador shouted. All species must be prohibited from developing them. And how do you propose to enforce such a ban? The Manthari representative clicked back. The humans already have these weapons. Will you ask them nicely to destroy them? If they refuse, we will make them. You tried that already. It did not end well for you. Ambassador Dravok's face twisted with rage. Before he could respond, another voice cut through the chamber. The honorable representatives should calm themselves. Everyone turned to look at the speaker. She was a Sarathi, a species of tall, thin beings with silver skin and large black eyes. The Sarathi were known for their intelligence and their neutrality in political matters. Their representative, Ambassador Yelena, rarely spoke in council sessions. When she did, others listened. I have spent these 3 weeks studying everything we know about humans, Yelena continued. I have analyzed their history, their culture, their technology. I believe I have insights that the council needs to hear. The eldest gestured for her to continue. Yelena activated her platform's display system. Images appeared in the air above the chamber. Pictures of Earth, pictures of human history, pictures of war. Humans are unique among known species, she began. They evolved on a world of extreme conditions. High gravity, violent weather, predators everywhere. Resources were scarce, and competition was fierce. The images showed ancient humans hunting large animals with primitive weapons. Unlike most intelligent species, humans did not evolve in peaceful conditions. They evolved as predators and prey at the same time. This created certain traits that seem strange to us, but are essential to understanding them. The images changed to show human armies throughout history. First, humans are extremely adaptable. They can survive in almost any environment. Their bodies are resilient, able to heal from injuries that would kill most species. Second, humans are fiercely territorial. They will fight to the death to protect what they consider their own. Third, and most importantly, humans never stopped being violent. A murmur ran through the chamber. Violence was something most species had eliminated from their cultures long ago. The idea of a species that had not was disturbing. When most species develop technology, they become peaceful. Yelena continued. War becomes inefficient. Cooperation becomes the dominant strategy. But humans took a different path. They continued to fight each other, even as their technology advanced. In fact, their most impressive technological achievements came from their wars. She showed images of human weapons, swords, guns, tanks, aircraft, nuclear weapons. The railgun technology that destroyed the Vexari fleet is not a recent invention. Humans have been developing kinetic weapons for their entire history. They never stopped. While we were building elegant energy weapons, they were perfecting the art of throwing things very, very fast. The chamber was silent. No one knew what to say. But there is something else you need to understand, Yelena said. Something that gives me hope. Humans are not mindless killers. They have a concept they call honor. They have rules for warfare. They spare those who surrender. They protect the innocent. They feel guilt when they kill unnecessarily. That does not match what we saw, Dravok interrupted. They slaughtered our fleet without mercy. Your fleet attacked their homeworld, Yelena replied calmly. Your admiral threatened to destroy their cities. By human standards, they showed great restraint. They could have killed every one of your soldiers. Instead, they allowed many to escape. This was true, and everyone knew it. The surviving Vexari ships had been allowed to flee. No one had pursued them. My recommendation, Yelena concluded, is that we send a diplomatic mission to Earth. We need to talk to the humans. We need to understand them. And we need to convince them that we are not their enemies. The chamber exploded with debate. Some agreed with Yelena. Others thought it was too dangerous. The Vexari demanded that the humans be treated as criminals. Other species wanted to offer alliance. In the end, the eldest made the decision. A diplomatic mission will be sent to Earth. Representatives from all major factions will be included. We will offer the humans membership in the Galactic Council. We will attempt to negotiate a peace treaty with the Vexari, and we will hope that they are as reasonable as Ambassador Yelena believes. And, on Earth, the news of the coming diplomatic mission was received with mixed reactions. President Martinez stood in the Oval Office, surrounded by advisors. General Chen was there, along with the Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and a dozen other officials. The mood was tense. They want to talk, the Secretary of State said. That's a good sign. If they wanted to attack us again, they wouldn't bother with diplomacy. Unless it's a trick, General Chen replied. They could be using the diplomatic mission to gather intelligence, learn our weaknesses, prepare a more effective attack. You think they would risk their diplomats like that? I think we have no idea what these aliens are capable of. We've never met them. We don't know their culture, their values, their concept of truth. For all we know, lying and deception are considered virtues to them. President Martinez raised a hand for silence. General Chen has a point. We need to be careful, but we also need to take this opportunity. We can't fight the entire galaxy alone. If there's a chance for peace, we have to try. So we let them come to Earth? No. The president shook his head. We don't know what they might bring with them. Weapons we can't detect, diseases we can't cure. We meet them somewhere neutral, somewhere we can control. Where? General Chen asked. The president thought for a moment. Mars. We have a colony there. Small, but functional. We can build a proper meeting facility. It's far enough from Earth that any treachery would not immediately threaten our homeworld, but close enough that we can respond quickly if needed. The Secretary of State nodded slowly. That could work. We would need to transport them somehow. No. General Chen's voice was firm. We don't use their ships. We don't trust their technology. We bring them in our own vessels. They arrive on our terms, or they don't arrive at all. This was the message sent to the Galactic Council. The humans agreed to a diplomatic meeting, but only under their conditions. The alien representatives would be transported in human ships. They would meet on Mars. They would be searched for weapons and monitoring devices. Any attempt at deception would be considered an act of war. The Council was surprised by the demands. Most species would be eager to see alien technology, to travel in advanced ships, to learn from their betters. The humans refused all of these opportunities. They seemed almost insulted by the offer. They are arrogant, Dravok sneered. They think themselves superior to us. Or cautious, Yelena replied. They have just been attacked by aliens. They have no reason to trust us. Their demands are reasonable, given the circumstances. In the end, the Council agreed. A diplomatic delegation was assembled. It included representatives from the Vexari, the Serathi, the Manthari, and a dozen other species. The eldest itself chose to send a fragment of its consciousness to observe, and, unknown to most, the Kron Dominion also sent a representative, a being named Draknal, who was officially a minor diplomat but was actually one of the Supreme Lord's most trusted agents. 6 weeks after the Battle of Earth, a human ship arrived at Nexus Prime to collect the delegates. It was called the Defiance, and it was the largest vessel humanity had ever built, 1/2 kilometer long, bristling with railguns. It was a statement of intent. The alien delegates gathered in the station's docking bay, watching the ship approach. Most had never seen a human vessel up close. Now they could see every detail. The thick armor plating, the multiple gun turrets, the complete absence of the graceful curves that characterized galactic ship design. It looks like a weapon pretending to be a ship, a Kelani observer muttered. That is exactly what it is, Yelena replied quietly. The Defiance docked, an airlock opened, and for the first time, the delegates saw humans in person. There were 3 of them, 2 soldiers in armor that covered their entire bodies, carrying weapons that looked disturbingly similar to miniature railguns, and between them, a woman in a simple uniform. She was not tall by human standards, but she moved with confidence. Her skin was brown, her hair black, her eyes dark and sharp. She looked at the assembled aliens without fear or awe. I am Ambassador Diana Rodriguez, she said. Her voice was translated instantly by devices that every delegate carried. I represent the United Nations of Earth. You are all welcome aboard the Defiance. Please follow me. We will depart immediately. The delegates looked at each other. No formal greetings, no ceremonial exchanges, just a brief introduction and an order to follow. Ambassador Rodriguez, Yelena said carefully. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I thank you for. We can do formal greetings when we reach Mars, Diana interrupted. For now, I need you all aboard. Space is dangerous, and I don't like waiting in one place for too long. She turned and walked back into the ship without checking to see if anyone followed. The 2 soldiers waited, their faces hidden behind their helmets, their weapons held in positions that were not quite threatening but not quite safe either. Slowly, the delegates began to board. As they entered the ship, they felt the difference immediately. The air was heavier than they expected. The gravity was stronger. Everything was built solid and sturdy, with none of the elegant efficiency they were used to. Ambassador Yelena studied everything she could. The walls, the equipment, the crew members who watched them pass with expressions that were hard to read. She was recording it all, storing it in her memory for later analysis. Draknal, the Kron agent, was doing the same thing, but his purposes were very different. The journey to Mars took 3 days. The human ship was faster than the delegates expected. It used some kind of engine technology that the Council scientists would spend years trying to understand. During the journey, Ambassador Rodriguez organized several informal meetings. She answered questions about Earth, about human culture, about the war with the Vexari. She was polite but distant, giving information without giving trust. You must understand our position, she explained during one such meeting. 3 weeks ago, we thought we were alone in the universe. Then, suddenly, we learned that hundreds of species existed, and the first ones we met tried to conquer us. We are still processing this. We are still deciding what to think about all of you. We are not all like the Vexari, Yelena said gently. Most species in the galaxy are peaceful. We trade, we cooperate, we help each other. War is rare among us. War is rare. Diana raised an eyebrow. The Vexari seemed pretty good at it. From what we've learned, they've been conquering species for thousands of years. That is true. But the Vexari are the exception, not the rule. And yet no one stopped them. The Council let them conquer and enslave for millennia. Why? Yelena had no good answer for that. The truth was shameful. The Vexari were too strong. No one wanted to risk war with them, so everyone looked away, while weaker species suffered. We tried, she said finally. We passed resolutions. We issued condemnations. We restricted their access to certain technologies. But you are right. We did not stop them. Diana nodded slowly. I appreciate your honesty, Ambassador. It tells me something important about your people. And what is that? That you can admit when you're wrong. That's a good starting point for a relationship. On the third day, Mars appeared on the view screens. The red planet, cold and barren, but dotted with human structures. Domes and towers rose from the rust-colored surface. Ships moved in orbit. A ring of defense platforms surrounded the entire planet. More railguns, the delegates realized. More of those terrible weapons. The Defiance docked at a station in orbit. The delegates were transferred to a shuttle that took them down to the surface. They landed at a facility that had been built specifically for this meeting. It was simple but functional, with quarters for each delegation and a large conference room in the center. General Chen was waiting for them. She stood at attention as the delegates filed off the shuttle, her uniform crisp, her face expressionless. Behind her stood a row of soldiers, all armed, all watching. Welcome to Mars, she said. I am General Sarah Chen, Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. I will be overseeing security during these talks. General Chen, Ambassador Dravok said, stepping forward. His voice was cold with barely contained hatred. I know who you are. You are the one who murdered Admiral Vex Nar. You are the one who destroyed our fleet. The other delegates tensed. Some reached for weapons they had been forced to leave on the ship. The soldiers behind General Chen shifted slightly, their hands moving toward their guns. But Sarah Chen just smiled. Admiral Vex Nar announced his intention to destroy our cities and enslave our people, she said calmly. He threatened 7 billion innocent lives. I did what any soldier would do. I protected my home. If that makes me a murderer in your eyes, so be it. But if you're looking for an apology, you won't get one. Dravok's 4 eyes blazed with fury. But before he could respond, another voice spoke. The ambassador will control himself. It was Yelena stepping between them. We are here to talk, not to fight. The past is the past. We must focus on the future. For a long moment, Dravok and Chen stared at each other. The tension was thick enough to taste. Then, slowly, Dravok stepped back. We will talk, he said. But do not think this is over, General. The Vexari do not forget, and we do not forgive. Neither do we, Chen replied. Remember that. The delegates were escorted to their quarters. The formal talks would begin the next day. But already, everyone could feel the weight of what was happening. This was not just a diplomatic meeting. This was the beginning of a new era. In his quarters, Draknal sent a coded message to the Kron Dominion. The humans are strong but naive. They do not understand galactic politics. They believe they can trust their weapons to keep them safe. They are wrong. With time and patience, we will learn their secrets. And then, we will crush them. Far away, the Supreme Lord received the message and smiled. Begin the next phase, he commanded. Let the games begin. The conference room on Mars was built for function, not beauty. Metal walls, harsh lighting, a long table with chairs designed to accommodate beings of many different shapes. The humans had tried to make it comfortable for their guests, but comfort was not their priority. Truth was their priority. Understanding. And if possible, peace. Ambassador Diana Rodriguez sat at one end of the table. General Chen stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes watchful. President Martinez himself was present via holographic projection, his image flickering slightly due to the distance from Earth. Across from them sat the delegates of the Galactic Council, Yelena of the Serathi, Dravok of the Vexari, Kliktar of the Manthari, Zelmos of the Kelani, a dozen others representing different species and factions, and floating above them all, a sphere of light that contained a fragment of the eldest's consciousness. In the back of the room, trying to appear unimportant, sat Draknal of the Kron. He listened carefully to every word. "We are here," the eldest began, "to discuss the future relationship between humanity and the Galactic Council. The events of recent weeks have made such discussions urgent. Humanity has demonstrated military capabilities that were previously unknown. This has created fear and uncertainty throughout the galaxy." "Fear?" General Chen spoke without waiting for permission. "We were attacked. We defended ourselves. If anyone should be afraid, it's us. You came to our world with warships. You threatened our extinction." "The Vexari acted alone," the eldest replied. "They do not represent the Council. They do not represent the values of galactic civilization. Then why were they allowed to threaten us? Why did no one stop them before they reached our system?" The eldest's light dimmed slightly, a sign of discomfort. "The Council does not interfere in the affairs of individual species," the Vexari claimed. "They were investigating a new civilization. We did not know their true intentions." "Convenient." Chen's voice was cold. Ambassador Rodriguez raised a hand gently. "General, please. We are here to talk, not to accuse." She turned to face the delegates. "The general raises valid concerns. Humanity is new to galactic politics. We don't know who to trust. We don't know what rules exist, if any. We need you to help us understand." Yelena leaned forward. "The Galactic Council was founded 12,000 years ago. Its purpose is to maintain peace and facilitate cooperation between species. We do not have an army. We do not make war. We rely on diplomacy, trade, and mutual respect to resolve conflicts." "That sounds admirable," Rodriguez said, "but it doesn't seem to have worked very well. The Vexari have been conquering other species for millennia. You admitted yourself that the Council failed to stop them." "This is true." Yelena's silver skin darkened with something like shame. "The Council has weaknesses. We are not perfect, but we are better than the alternative, which is chaos and endless war. The humans already know about endless war," President Martinez said. His hologram flickered as he spoke. "We fought each other for our entire history. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. We understand the costs of conflict perhaps better than any other species." "Then you understand why the Council exists," Yelena replied. "And why we want you to join us." "Join you?" Dravok suddenly stood, his 4 eyes glaring. "You would invite these savages to join the Council? They murdered our people. They use weapons that were abandoned by civilized species thousands of years ago. They are barbarians. The Vexari are hardly in a position to call anyone barbaric." Clicktar clicked. The Manthari representative's insectoid body shifted with what might have been amusement. "Your empire has conquered and enslaved dozens of species. You came to Earth intending to do the same thing. That is our way. The strong rule the weak. It has always been so. And it nearly got your fleet destroyed." Clicktar turned to the humans. "The Manthari people have watched the Vexari expand for generations. We have lost trading partners to their aggression. We have seen peaceful species reduced to slaves. We welcome any force that can stand against them." The conference room erupted into argument. The Vexari shouted about justice and revenge. The Manthari defended the humans. Other species tried to stay neutral but found themselves pulled into the debate. The noise became overwhelming. General Chen watched it all with growing frustration. This was why she hated politics. Too much talking, not enough action. These aliens had been arguing for millennia, and nothing had changed. Nothing would change through more argument. But then she noticed something interesting. One delegate was not participating in the argument. The being in the back, the one with the scaly skin and the cold eyes. He was just watching, observing, taking mental notes. Chen recognized the look. She had seen it in intelligence officers, in spies, in people who were planning something they didn't want others to know about. She made a mental note to find out more about this delegate. After nearly an hour, the eldest finally restored order. "We will not resolve our differences through shouting," the sphere of light said. "Let us focus on practical matters. Humanity. What do you want from this meeting?" Ambassador Rodriguez consulted briefly with President Martinez before responding. "We want 3 things," she said. "First, recognition. We want the Council to formally acknowledge that Earth and its colonies are sovereign territory. not subject to invasion or conquest by any other species. Second, trade. We are new to the galaxy. We have much to learn, and we suspect we have something to offer as well. Third, security. We want assurances that what happened with the Vexari will not happen again. These are reasonable requests, Yelena said. The Council can offer recognition and trade immediately. As for security, she hesitated. That is more complicated. Why? Because the Council has no military. We cannot protect you from aggression. We can only condemn it, after the fact. Chen laughed. A harsh sound. So you expect us to join an organization that can do nothing to protect us? What's the point? The point is community, the eldest replied. Connection, trade, culture, the exchange of ideas and technologies. A single species alone in the galaxy is vulnerable. A species that is part of the Council has allies, partners, friends. We don't need friends, Chen said. We need allies who will fight beside us, not colleagues who will give us strongly worded letters of concern. Yelena spread her hands. Then perhaps you can be the change the Council needs. Your military strength is obvious, but strength alone cannot build a civilization. We offer you something you cannot create with weapons. We offer you a place in the larger community of life. The talks continued for 3 days. Slowly, carefully, terms were negotiated. Humanity would be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. Trade relations would be established. Cultural exchanges would begin. In return, the Vexari would be required to pay reparations for their attempted invasion. A formal apology would be issued. Dravok protested every point, but he was alone. The other delegates were tired of Vexari aggression. They saw humanity as a potential counterweight to Vexari power. For the first time in millennia, someone could actually challenge the Empire. On the final day, something unexpected happened. Draknal, the Kron delegate, requested a private meeting with the human representatives. Chen's instincts screamed warning. There was something wrong about this being. His movements were too smooth, his eyes too calculating. But Rodriguez agreed to the meeting. Diplomacy required taking risks. They met in a small room adjoining the main conference chamber. Draknal sat across from Rodriguez and Chen, his scaled face unreadable. I represent the Kron Dominion, he began. We are a small power on the edge of galactic civilization. We have watched your emergence with great interest. We've read the files on your people, Chen said bluntly. You're not as harmless as you pretend. You've been involved in several territorial disputes. You've been accused of piracy and smuggling. Draknal showed his teeth in what might have been a smile. The strong take what they can. The weak suffer what they must. It is the way of things. Is that a threat? No. It is a statement of fact, and it is why I am here. He leaned forward. The Council is weak. It has always been weak. The Vexari understand this. The Kron understand this. Only the humans seem not to understand it. What are you suggesting? Rodriguez asked carefully. An alliance. A true alliance. Not the pretend cooperation of the Council. The Kron Dominion and humanity. Working together. Sharing resources. Sharing technology. His cold eyes fixed on Chen. Sharing weapons. The room went very still. You want our railguns? Chen said flatly. I want partnership. Your weapons are impressive, but they are only one factor in galactic power. The Kron have other capabilities, information networks, political connections, resources that humans cannot yet imagine. And what would you do with railgun technology? Draknal spread his clawed hands. Defend ourselves. Expand our influence. Create a new order in the galaxy. One where strength is respected, where the strong need not bow to the weak, where beings like us are not held back by the timid rules of the Council. Chen looked at Rodriguez. Rodriguez looked at the floor for a long moment. Then she raised her head. No. Draknal's eyes narrowed. No, no. We will not share our weapons technology with you or anyone else. We will not form a secret alliance against the Council. We came here to make peace, not to plot conquest. You are making a mistake. The friendliness had vanished from Draknal's voice. The galaxy is not as peaceful as the Council pretends. There are powers that see your emergence as a threat. Powers that will not rest until you are destroyed or enslaved. The Vexari were just the beginning. Then we'll deal with them as we dealt with the Vexari. Chen stood, her hand resting near her sidearm. Thank you for your offer. This meeting is over. Draknal rose slowly. For a moment, Chen thought he might attack, but instead, he simply nodded. As you wish. But remember this conversation, humans. When the darkness comes, you will wish you had not been so proud. He left without another word. That night, Chen could not sleep. She walked the corridors of the Mars facility, her mind racing. Something was wrong. She could feel it in her bones, the same instinct that had kept her alive through decades of military service. She found herself in the observation deck, staring out at the Martian landscape. The stars above were cold and distant. Somewhere out there, enemies were planning. The Kron, the Vexari, others she hadn't even heard of yet. You're worried. A voice behind her. She turned to find Yelena standing in the doorway. Shouldn't I be? The Sarathi approached to stand beside her. You should. You humans have made many enemies very quickly. But you have also made friends. Friends like you? Yelena made a sound that might have been a laugh. I would like to be your friend, General. I find your species fascinating. So different from anything we have encountered before. Different? How? You are violent. More violent than almost any species we know. You have weapons that could destroy worlds. And you have been willing to use them against each other. By our standards. You should have destroyed yourselves long ago. Maybe we almost did. But you didn't. And that is what fascinates me. Despite your violence, you also have compassion, mercy. You could have destroyed the entire Vexari fleet. Instead, you let many escape. Why? Chen was quiet for a long moment. Because killing is easy. Living with what you've killed is hard. We've learned that lesson too many times. We fight when we must. But we don't fight for pleasure. We don't fight for conquest. We fight to protect what we love. That is, not what I expected from you. We're full of surprises. Chen turned to face the Sarathi. Ambassador, you've been honest with us. I want to be honest with you. Something is coming. I can feel it. The Kron made an offer today. We turned them down. But they didn't seem surprised. They expected us to refuse. What do you think it means? I think it was a test. They wanted to see what we would do. They learned that we won't be manipulated. Now they'll try something else. Yelena's large black eyes showed concern. The Kron are dangerous. More dangerous than they appear. The Council has suspected them of many things but has never been able to prove anything. Then maybe it's time to start finding proof. The formal signing of the treaty took place the next morning. Humanity officially joined the Galactic Council. Trade agreements were established. Cultural exchanges were planned. The delegates exchanged formal statements of friendship and cooperation. But underneath the ceremony, tension simmered. Dravox signed the treaty with barely concealed hatred. Draknal watched with those cold, calculating eyes. Even the eldest seemed troubled, its light flickering with uncertainty. As the delegates prepared to leave Mars, Yelena approached Ambassador Rodriguez. I have a gift for you, she said, handing over a small data crystal. It contains everything the Sarathi know about the Kron Dominion. Their history, their capabilities, their suspected activities. It is not much, but it may be useful. Rodriguez accepted the crystal with a slight bow. Thank you, Ambassador. Why are you helping us? Because I believe the galaxy needs change. The Council has grown complacent. The Vexari have been allowed to terrorize weaker species for too long. Other powers gather in the shadows, waiting for their moment. Your arrival has upset the balance. That balance needed to be upset. That's a dangerous game you're playing. All games worth playing are dangerous. Yelena touched Rodriguez's hand briefly. Be careful, Ambassador. The enemies you have made are cunning. They will not challenge you directly again. Instead, they will work in shadows. They will use proxies and deceptions. They will try to turn you against each other. We've dealt with enemies like that before. We call them politicians. Yelena laughed, a sound like chiming bells. Then perhaps you are better prepared than I thought. Farewell, Ambassador. May we meet again in better times. The delegates departed. The Defiance carried them back to Nexus Prime, where they would return to their respective homes. The humans returned to Earth, carrying data crystals filled with galactic knowledge and minds filled with new concerns. In the months that followed, humanity began to change. Ships were built faster than ever before. Colonies expanded. Defense platforms were constructed around every human world. The railgun technology was refined and improved, and in the darkness of space, other forces were moving. The Kron Supreme Lord received Draknal's report with satisfaction. So they refused our alliance, he rumbled. As expected, humans are proud. They believe their weapons make them invincible. They are wrong. What is our next move, Supreme Lord? We let them grow comfortable. We let them think they are safe. We establish trade relations. We exchange ambassadors. We smile and pretend to be friendly. And while they are busy making peace with the galaxy, the Supreme Lord's eyes gleamed with cruel intelligence. We find their weaknesses. Every species has weaknesses. Every society has cracks. When we find theirs, we will strike. Not with ships or soldiers, with something far more effective. What, Supreme Lord? Fear, doubt, division. We will turn them against each other. We will make them question their allies, and when they are weak and isolated, when they have nowhere to turn, we will offer them a choice. Join us, or die. Far across the galaxy, on Earth, General Chen studied the data from Yelena. The Kron were indeed dangerous. They had been involved in the fall of 3 species over the past 1,000 years, not through war, but through manipulation, economic pressure, political interference, assassinations that looked like accidents. They're patient, she said to her staff. They plan decades in advance. They never attack directly. They wait for their enemies to destroy themselves. What do we do? Asked one of her officers. We prepare. We watch. We don't trust anyone completely. Chen looked out her window at the sky. Somewhere up there, in the vast darkness between stars, enemies were scheming, friends were doubting, and humanity was just beginning to understand how complicated the galaxy really was. And we remember, she added quietly, that in a universe full of talkers, sometimes the one with the biggest gun has the last word. The war for the galaxy's future had begun. It would not be fought with weapons alone. It would be fought with intelligence, with diplomacy, with patience and cunning, and humanity, for all their strength, was still learning the rules of the game. The question was whether they would learn fast enough. 2 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Council. In that time, the universe had changed, not in dramatic ways that everyone could see, but in subtle shifts that only the careful observer would notice. Human colonies had spread to 15 worlds. Each one was defended by orbital platforms carrying railguns. Trade with galactic species brought new technologies, new resources, and new ideas. Earth's economy grew faster than any point in history. People who had spent their lives in poverty now had access to alien medical technology that could cure almost any disease. The future seemed bright, but General Sarah Chen knew better than to trust the appearance of peace. She stood in the command center of Fortress Luna, the massive military installation built into the moon's surface. Around her, screens displayed data from across human space, ship movements, communication signals, trade routes. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Report, she said to her second-in-command, Admiral James Okonkwo. All sectors normal. General, no unusual activity. The Vexari have been silent for 6 months. The Kron ambassador continues to smile and sign trade agreements. Even the pirates seem to have found better things to do. That's what worries me. Okonkwo was a tall man with dark skin and patient eyes. He had served under Chen for 15 years, through the Battle of Earth and everything that followed. He knew her moods, her instincts, her fears. You think something's coming, he said. It was not a question. The Kron don't give up. They've been manipulating galactic politics for centuries. They don't just stop because we signed a treaty. Chen pulled up a holographic map of human space. Look at our colonies. New Eden, Harvest, Liberty, 15 worlds, spread across dozens of light years. We can't defend them all equally. Our railgun platforms are powerful, but limited. It takes time to charge them, time to aim. If someone hit multiple colonies at once, with enough force, she trailed off, not wanting to finish the thought. The Council would intervene, would they? The Council has no military. They condemn aggression but do nothing to stop it. And even if they wanted to help, what could they do? Okonkwo had no answer for that. Neither did Chen. That was the problem with being strong enough to defend yourself. Everyone expected you to do it alone. 300 light-years away, on the Kron homeworld, the Supreme Lord made his final decision. It is time, he announced to his gathered commanders. The humans have grown comfortable. They believe their weapons make them safe. They have spread themselves thin, defending too many worlds with too few resources. We will teach them the truth. What is the plan? Supreme Lord? Asked Draknul, who had risen to become the Lord's chief strategist. The attack will come from an unexpected direction. Not from our ships, from their own allies. The commanders exchanged confused looks. I don't understand. We have spent 2 years infiltrating human society. Our agents are everywhere. On Earth, on their colonies, even in their military. The Supreme Lord showed his teeth in satisfaction. We have also been busy with the Vexari. Ambassador Dravok was easy to manipulate. His hatred of humans burned so bright that he couldn't see our hands guiding him. The Vexari will attack? A faction of them will. Not the official government. That would be too obvious. But certain commanders, certain ships, operating without official orders, they will strike the human colony of New Eden. And when they do, humanity will blame the Vexari Empire. Draknul finished. War will follow. Both sides will weaken themselves fighting. And we will be waiting. Exactly. But the attack on New Eden is only the beginning. While the humans are distracted, our own ships will hit their outer colonies. We will disguise ourselves as pirates, as raiders, as anyone but Kron. By the time they realize what is happening, their empire will be burning. The plan was set in motion. Across the galaxy, pieces began to move. On New Eden, life continued as normal. The colony was 3 years old, home to 200,000 people. They had built cities on the shores of purple oceans. They grew crops in fields of alien soil. They raised children who had never seen Earth and never would. Governor Maria Santos watched the sunset from her office window. Twin moons were rising, their light mixing with the fading sun to paint the sky in shades of orange and blue. It was beautiful, peaceful. Her communicator beeped. Governor, we're receiving a priority message from Earth Command. Put it through. General Chen's face appeared on her screen. The general looked tired, worried. Governor Santos, I'm sending you encrypted data. We have intelligence suggesting your colony may be targeted for attack. Santos felt her heart freeze. Attack? By whom? We're not certain. The intelligence is fragmented. But I'm ordering you to increase your alert status immediately. Activate all defense systems. Prepare for evacuation if necessary. General, that could cause panic. Our people, your people will die if you don't prepare. Trust me, Governor. I've seen what happens when we underestimate our enemies. The call ended. Santos stared at the blank screen for a long moment. Then she made her decision. Sound the alarm. All civilian personnel to shelters. Defense forces to battle stations. The attack came 3 hours later. 16 Vexari warships emerged from hyperspace on the edge of the New Eden system. They were older vessels, crewed by soldiers who had volunteered for a suicide mission. Ambassador Dravok had promised them glory. He had promised that history would remember them as the ones who finally brought humanity to its knees. The commander of the attack force, a Vexari named Tarvos, surveyed the planet below. He saw the cities, the fields, the orbital platform with its massive guns. Signal the humans, he commanded. Tell them their time is over. The message was simple. Surrender or die. It was the same message Admiral Vexnar had delivered 2 years ago. Tarvos expected the same response. He expected the humans to beg, to plead, to offer anything for their lives. He did not expect what happened next. The orbital platform's railguns fired first. 3 Vexari ships exploded before they could even raise their shields. The tungsten projectiles moved too fast to track, too fast to stop. One moment the ships existed. The next, they were expanding clouds of debris. Evasive action, Tarvos screamed. Return fire. The remaining ships scattered, trying to avoid the deadly projectiles. Their plasma cannons fired back, but the orbital platform was heavily shielded. Human engineers had learned from the first battle. They had built defenses specifically designed to counter energy weapons, but Tarvos had learned too. He had studied the recordings of the Battle of Earth. He knew the railgun's weakness. They need time to recharge between shots, he told his fleet. We must endure long enough to close the distance. At short range, our cannons can overwhelm their shields. The battle became a race. The Vexari ships charged toward the planet while the railguns fired again and again. More ships died. 8, 10, 12. But the survivors pressed on, their captains screaming prayers to their ancestors. On the surface, Governor Santos watched in horror. The defense platform was doing its job, but it wasn't enough. Some ships would get through. Some ships would reach the planet. "Begin evacuation," she ordered. "Get everyone underground." But there wasn't time. There was never enough time. 4 Vexari ships survived long enough to enter orbit. They immediately began bombarding the surface. Plasma rained down on the colony, setting fires that spread faster than anyone could stop them. Buildings collapsed. People died in the streets, running for shelters they would never reach. In her office, Santos grabbed a weapon and ran for the door. She had been a soldier before becoming a governor. If she was going to die, she would die fighting. But as she reached the corridor, something unexpected happened. The bombardment stopped. She looked up through a shattered window. High above, new lights were appearing in the sky. New ships, emerging from hyperspace. Human ships. The UES Defiance had arrived. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge, his face hard as stone. Behind him floated 20 human warships. They were not elegant. They were not graceful. They were weapons platforms designed for one purpose: destruction. "All ships," Okonkwo commanded. "Fire at will." The railguns spoke. At this range, the Vexari could not evade. The 4 surviving attackers died in seconds, torn apart by tungsten moving at a fraction of light speed. Their debris rained down on the ocean, far from any populated area. "Enemy fleet destroyed," his tactical officer reported. "Beginning rescue operations." Okonkwo nodded, but there was no satisfaction on his face. New Eden had taken heavy damage. Thousands were dead. A city was burning. This was not a victory. It was a disaster that could have been much worse. "Send a message to General Chen," he said. "Tell her the intelligence was accurate, and tell her we need to find out who is really behind this." On Earth, Chen received the news with grim determination. She had expected an attack. She had not expected it to be so brutal. "The Vexari deny any involvement," Ambassador Rodriguez reported. "They claim the attacking ships were rogue elements operating without official authorization. Do you believe them? I don't know. The Vexari are not exactly trustworthy. But this attack doesn't make sense for them politically. They know they can't win a war against us. Why would they provoke one, unless someone manipulated them into it?" Chen pulled up the intelligence files on her screen. "Our sources say Ambassador Drevok has been meeting with unknown individuals, secretive communications, money moving through hidden accounts. Someone has been playing games. The Kron? That's my guess. They've been too quiet, too cooperative. It's not their nature." Chen stood and walked to the window. "They're trying to start a war between us and the Vexari. If we exhaust ourselves fighting each other, they can sweep in and pick up the pieces. What do? We don't give them what they want. No war with the Vexari. Not yet. We demand an investigation. We let the council mediate. We play the diplomatic game while we find evidence." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "And in the meantime?" "In the meantime, we prepare for the real enemy." The investigation took weeks. Human intelligence agents worked alongside Sirathi diplomats. They traced the funding for the attack. They interrogated captured Vexari soldiers. Slowly, a picture emerged. Drevok had been manipulated. He had been contacted by agents claiming to represent a secret society of Vexari nobles who wanted to restore their empire's glory. They had provided ships, weapons, soldiers. They had promised that the attack would be the first step in a glorious reconquest. But the agents were not Vexari. They were Kron. The evidence was presented to the Galactic Council. The eldest reviewed it carefully. The reaction was immediate. "These accusations are lies," the Kron ambassador screamed. "Fabrications designed to destroy our reputation. We demand." "You demand nothing," General Chen interrupted. She had come to Nexus Prime herself for this moment. "We have communications logs, financial records, genetic evidence from Kron agents found among the Vexari conspirators. Your Dominion planned this attack. You tried to start a war." The chamber erupted in chaos. The Kron ambassador continued to deny everything, but no one believed him. The evidence was too clear. Even the Vexari, humiliated and furious, turned against their supposed allies. "The Kron have made fools of us," Drevok announced. His 4 eyes burned with a new hatred, directed not at the humans, but at the beings who had manipulated his people. "They used our grief, our anger, to serve their own purposes. This will not be forgotten. The eldest made its judgment. The Kron Dominion is hereby expelled from the Galactic Council. Trade sanctions will be imposed. Their ambassadors will be recalled. Any species found assisting the Kron will face similar consequences. It was the harshest punishment the Council had ever delivered. But for the humans, it was not enough. They killed thousands of our people, Chen told the assembly. They attacked our colony. They tried to destroy our peace. Sanctions are not justice. Sanctions are a slap on the wrist. What would you have us do? The eldest asked. The Council does not make war. Then don't make war. Just don't get in our way when we do. The chamber fell silent. Everyone understood what Chen was saying. Humanity was going to retaliate. The Council could either support them or stand aside. There was no third option. In the end, the Council chose to stand aside. It was the only choice they could make. The humans were too powerful to stop, and the Kron had clearly violated every law of galactic civilization. What followed would become known as the Kron War. It lasted 6 months. The human fleet moved systematically through Kron space. Colony by colony, station by station. The Railguns proved as devastating against Kron ships as they had been against the Vexari. The Kron had been preparing for centuries to conquer the galaxy. They had not prepared for an enemy who fought the way humans did. The Supreme Lord tried everything. Ambushes, traps, decoys. He tried to draw the humans into situations where their weapons would be less effective. Nothing worked. The human commanders adapted to every tactic. They learned from every battle. They became more dangerous, not less. On the final day of the war, the human fleet surrounded the Kron homeworld. General Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the planet below. Billions of lives, an ancient civilization, all of it within her power to destroy. Supreme Lord, she broadcast on all channels. You have lost. Your fleet is destroyed. Your allies have abandoned you. Surrender now, and your people will be spared. Continue to fight, and I will turn your world to glass. For a long moment, there was silence. Then the Supreme Lord's voice came through the speakers, bitter with defeat. What are your terms? The terms were harsh but not cruel. The Kron military would be dismantled. Their intelligence networks would be exposed. Reparations would be paid to all the species they had harmed over the centuries. The Supreme Lord himself would be tried for crimes against galactic peace. But the Kron people would live. Their cities would stand. Their culture would survive. You could have destroyed us, the Supreme Lord said as he was led away to imprisonment. Why didn't you? Chen looked at him with cold eyes. Because we're not you. We don't kill when we don't have to. We don't conquer for the sake of conquest. We fight to protect what we love. When the threat is gone, we stop. You are strange creatures, humans. So we've been told. The war was over. Humanity had won. The galaxy watched in amazement as the species they had dismissed as primitive barbarians defeated one of the oldest powers in known space. But victory had come at a cost. Thousands of humans had died in the war. Colonies had been damaged, resources had been spent, and everyone knew that the galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. They were no longer the newcomers. They were no longer the underdogs. They were a major power, capable of defeating any enemy who challenged them. The question now was what they would do with that power. On Earth, President Martinez addressed the United Nations. We have won a war we did not start, he said. We have defeated an enemy who sought to destroy us through manipulation and deceit. We have proven that humanity will not be bullied, threatened, or manipulated into submission. He paused, looking out at the assembled representatives. But victory in war is not the same as success in peace. We have enemies who hate us. We have allies who fear us. We have a galaxy watching to see what kind of species we really are. Will we become conquerors ourselves? Will we use our strength to dominate others? His voice hardened. No, that is not who we are. That is not what we fought for. We fought for the right to exist. We fought for the right to chart our own course among the stars. And now that we have won that right, we will use it not to conquer, but to build, to trade, to cooperate, to prove that strength and mercy can exist in the same hand. The speech was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species heard it. Some were relieved. Some were skeptical. Some were still afraid. But all of them understood one thing. Humanity was here to stay, and the galaxy would never be the same. 5 years after the Kron War, The galaxy had settled into an uneasy peace. The old order was gone. The Vexari Empire, humbled by their failed invasion of Earth and their manipulation by the Crone, had withdrawn behind their borders. They still plotted, still schemed, but they no longer threatened their neighbors. The Crone dominion barely existed anymore. Its military destroyed, its leaders imprisoned, its people struggling to rebuild under international supervision. And humanity? Humanity had become something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Ambassador Diana Rodriguez stood on a balcony in the diplomatic quarter of Nexus Prime, watching the sunset over the alien city. The sky was purple here, the sun a pale blue orb sinking below towers of crystal and light. After 5 years, she still found it beautiful. "You look thoughtful," a familiar voice said behind her. She turned to find Ambassador Yelena approaching. The Sarathi had aged somewhat. Her silver skin had darkened slightly, and her movements were slower than before. But her eyes were still sharp, still curious. "I was thinking about how much has changed," Rodriguez said. "When I first came here, everyone looked at us like we were dangerous animals, wild things that might attack at any moment. And now? Now they look at us like we're—" She searched for the right word. "Partners, equals, sometimes even friends." Yelena made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The galaxy's opinion of humanity has certainly evolved. You have proven yourselves to be more than warriors. Your traders have become some of the most successful in the Council. Your scientists have made contributions that will benefit everyone. Your artists have created works that move beings who have never seen Earth. But they still remember the Railguns. They will always remember the Railguns." Yelena came to stand beside her at the balcony railing. "That is not a bad thing. Fear and respect are not opposites. The Vexari never attacked you again because they were afraid. The Crone were defeated because they underestimated you. Other powers have learned from those examples." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "General Chen would agree with you. She always says that peace is just war waiting to happen, that we should never stop preparing for the next threat. General Chen is a wise woman, but she is also tired. I can see it in her eyes when she visits." This was true. Chen had been fighting for most of her life. The Battle of Earth, the Crone War, a dozen smaller conflicts since then. She was 70 now, and every year showed on her face. "She's thinking about retirement," Rodriguez admitted. "Passing command to the next generation. Admiral Okonkwo is ready to take over. That is good. Fresh minds, fresh perspectives. Every generation must find its own way." Yelena was quiet for a moment. "Have you heard the latest news from the Council? About the expansion proposal?" "Yes." The motion passed. "The Council will officially extend membership invitations to the species beyond the Outer Rim." Rodriguez whistled softly. The Outer Rim was the edge of explored space. Beyond it lay thousands of species that the Council had never contacted. Primitive civilizations, most of them. But some were advanced. Some might be dangerous. That's a big step. It is. And it was humanity that made it possible. Yelena turned to face her directly. "Before you arrived, the Council was stagnant. We had stopped growing, stopped exploring. We were content to manage what we had instead of reaching for what we could become. You changed that. We just defended ourselves. We didn't mean to change anything. Great changes rarely come from intention. They come from action. You acted, and the universe shifted." The Sarathi's black eyes reflected the fading sunlight. "There will be new challenges. New enemies, perhaps. New opportunities. Certainly. The galaxy is becoming something different. Something better, I hope. And if it becomes something worse?" Yelena smiled slightly. "Then humanity will be there to defend it, as you have done before. As you will do again. On Earth, in the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Sarah Chen prepared for her final inspection. The facility had changed over the years. What had once been a secret bunker was now the heart of humanity's military operations. Thousands of personnel worked here, monitoring threats across dozens of light years. The screens showed the positions of human ships, the status of defense platforms, the movements of foreign vessels in human space. Chen walked through the corridors slowly, savoring every moment. This had been her life for so long. Every wall held memories. Every room reminded her of battles fought and won. Admiral Okonkwo walked beside her. He would be taking command tomorrow. She trusted him completely, but letting go was harder than she had expected. "The expansion project is on schedule," he reported. "The new colonies are being established according to plan. Defense platforms are being manufactured faster than ever. Our fleet strength has tripled since the Kron War. Good. But don't get complacent. There's always someone out there who thinks they can take what we have. I won't forget, General. They reached the main command center. Officers snapped to attention as Chen entered. She waved them back to their work and walked to the central display. The holographic map showed everything. Earth at the center, surrounded by its defenses. The colonies, each one a point of light. The trade routes, stretching like threads to 100 different species. And beyond it all, the vast darkness of unexplored space. When I started this job, Chen said quietly, humanity was alone. We thought we were special, the only intelligent life in the universe. Then we found out we were just one species among thousands. Small, weak, insignificant. She touched the display, zooming out until Earth was just a tiny dot among billions of stars. Now look at us. We're not small anymore. We're not weak. And we're definitely not insignificant. She turned to face Okonkwo. I'm proud of what we've built, but I'm prouder of what we haven't become. We could have been conquerors. We could have used our weapons to dominate the galaxy. Instead, we chose to be protectors, traders, partners. We chose to be better than our enemies. That choice defines us, Okonkwo said. It always will. Keep making that choice. Every day, no matter how hard it gets. Because the moment we stop choosing mercy, the moment we start choosing conquest, we become everything we fought against. Chen looked at the map one last time. Then she reached up and removed the stars from her uniform. She placed them in Okonkwo's hand. The fleet is yours now, Admiral. Take care of our people. Okonkwo accepted the stars with steady hands. I will, General, I promise. Chen nodded once. Then, without another word, she turned and walked away. Her steps echoed in the corridor, fading into silence. The changing of the guard was complete. 3 months later, the Galactic Council hosted the largest gathering in its history. Representatives from over 400 species assembled on Nexus Prime. The traditional members were there, of course. The Sirathi, the Manthari, the Kalani, even the Vexari, grudgingly participating in the new order they had once opposed. But there were also newcomers, species from beyond the Outer Rim, experiencing galactic civilization for the first time, and at the center of it all, speaking for humanity, stood Ambassador Diana Rodriguez. We are here, she said, her voice carrying through the vast chamber, to celebrate something remarkable. 5 years ago, this council was divided, afraid, uncertain about the future. Today, we are united in purpose. We are reaching out to new civilizations. We are building something that will last for generations. She paused, looking around at the assembled beings. So many shapes, so many colors, so many different forms of life, all gathered in one place. Humanity came to this galaxy as outsiders. We were attacked. We defended ourselves. We fought a war that we did not start but were determined to win. Some of you feared us. Some of you hated us. Some of you thought we were the greatest threat the galaxy had ever faced. A murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone remembered those days. But we also found friends, beings who saw past our weapons to the people holding them, who understood that strength and compassion are not opposites, who believed that different species could work together, despite their differences, to build something better. Rodriguez looked at Yelena, sitting in the Sarathi delegation. The ambassador nodded slightly. Today, I am proud to announce that humanity will be sharing certain technologies with the Galactic Council. Medical advances that have extended our lifespans, agricultural methods that have increased food production, and defensive systems that will help protect peaceful species from aggression. The chamber buzzed with excitement. Humanity had been notoriously secretive about their technology, especially their weapons. This was unprecedented. We are not sharing our railgun technology, Rodriguez continued, and the buzzing died down. Some things must remain our own, but we are sharing enough to prove that we want to be partners, not conquerors. We want to lift others up, not push them down. She spread her hands wide. This is what humanity offers the galaxy. Not dominance, not fear. Partnership, cooperation. A hand extended in friendship, backed by the strength to defend that friendship against any enemy. The eldest floated forward, its light pulsing gently. Ambassador Rodriguez speaks for her species. Does the Council accept humanity's offer? One by one, the delegations voted. The Sarathi, yes. The Manthari, yes. The Kelani, yes. Even the Vexari, after a long pause, voted yes. Species after species agreed. When the voting was complete, the eldest made the announcement. The Council accepts. Humanity is hereby recognized not merely as a member of our community, but as a leader within it. May this partnership bring prosperity to all. The chamber erupted in applause. Beings of every shape and size celebrated together, their differences forgotten in the joy of the moment. Far above Nexus Prime, in orbit among the diplomatic ships from across the galaxy, the UES Defiance held position. Admiral Okonkwo stood on the bridge, watching the celebration through his view screen. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" his communications officer said. "All those species, working together. I never thought I'd see anything like it." "Neither did I," Okonkwo admitted. "When I was a young officer, we didn't even know aliens existed. Now look at us. Signing treaties, sharing technology, building a future together. General Chen would be proud. She is proud. She's watching this from Earth right now. She sent me a message before the ceremony." Okonkwo smiled slightly. "She said to remember that peace is the goal, but readiness is the price. Never stop preparing for the next threat." "Do you think there will be a next threat?" Okonkwo looked out at the stars. "So many of them, so many worlds, so many possibilities. There's always a next threat. The universe is vast, and we've only explored a tiny fraction of it. Somewhere out there, something is waiting. Something we haven't met yet. Maybe friendly, maybe not." He turned back to his bridge crew. "But whatever comes, we'll be ready. That's what humans do. We prepare, we adapt, we survive, and when we have to." He glanced at the weapons display, where the status of the Defiance's railguns glowed steady green. "We fight. Not because we love war, but because we love peace. And sometimes, peace has to be defended." On Earth, in a small house in the mountains of Colorado, Sarah Chen watched the ceremony with tears in her eyes. She had given her life to protecting humanity. She had made hard choices, sacrificed so much, lost friends and colleagues along the way. There had been times when she wondered if any of it was worth it. Times when she questioned whether humanity deserved to survive in a universe so full of danger. Now she had her answer. The faces on her screen were joyful. Human diplomats shaking hands with beings from 100 different worlds. Scientists comparing notes. Artists sharing their visions. Children of Earth playing with children of distant stars. This was what she had fought for. Not victory. Not power. This. Her phone rang. She answered it to find President Martinez on the line. He was old now too. Retired like her, but still keeping an eye on things. "Are you watching?" he asked. "I'm watching. We did it, Sarah. Everything you worked for. Everything we sacrificed. It was worth it." Chen wiped her eyes. "I know. I finally know. What are you going to do now? Really retire this time?" She laughed softly. "I think so. I have a garden that needs attention. Grandchildren who want to hear stories about the old days. Maybe I'll write a book." "A book about what?" Chen thought about it. About the battle that had changed everything. The single blast that had shaken the galaxy. The years of struggle and triumph that followed. About how a bunch of primitive apes with metal guns scared the most powerful civilizations in the galaxy, she said. And about how those same apes turned out to be the best friends the galaxy ever had. Martinez was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. "That's a good story. The best." Chen agreed. "Because it's true. Above Earth, beyond the moon, past the orbital platforms with their silent railguns, the stars continued their ancient dance. In their light, human ships traveled to distant worlds. Human voices joined in conversations that spanned the galaxy. Human hands reached out in friendship to beings who had once been enemies. The universe was vast and dangerous. There would be new threats, new challenges, new wars to fight. But humanity would face them together, with their allies at their side and their weapons ready. They had started as one small species on one small world, believing they were alone in the cosmos. They had discovered a galaxy that feared them, hated them, tried to destroy them, and they had responded not with conquest, but with courage, not with domination, but with determination, not with cruelty, but with compassion. The galaxy had quaked from a single blast. But what it remembered, in the end, was not the power of human weapons. It was the strength of human hearts, and that was a story worth telling. Across all the stars, for all the years to come.